All right, folks, let's finish up. All right, so a lot of this liver stuff we're not going to really bother too much with, but we're going to talk about bile, right? So we're not going to worry so much about the structure of the liver and these sorts of things. Instead, we're going to skip over to composition of bile, right? As it says here, bile, the yellow-green alkaline
Sir,
solution.
you're not sharing.
Oh, hell, I thought I was, sorry. Okay. So as it says, bile is yellow-green alkaline containing bile salts, bile pigments, cholesterol, neutral fats, phospholipids, and electrolytes, right? Um, and of course, as we know from long time, bile's main purpose is emulsification of fat. Now, I want you to understand that emulsifying fat is not the same as digesting fat. Okay? All emulsification is doing is taking a layer of oil and breaking it down into tiny droplets of oil. And then these tiny droplets now have a larger combined surface area than the one layer of oil. And because of that, it's easier for enzymes to break it down. Okay? So emulsification of fat is not digesting the fat. It's simply increasing the surface area on which enzymes can work on. Okay? And it says facilitates fat and cholesterol absorption, helps solubilize cholesterol, right? As well. Then now it mentions the enterohepatic circulation recycles bile salts, and chief bile pigment is bilirubin, which is a waste product of heme. So this is basically saying that the major bile salts that are produced and are put in the bile are actually reabsorbed by your body, right? But no, what will not be reabsorbed is the bilirubin. This is one of the main things that colors feces. It makes feces look all, well, normally brownish, right? It's the bilirubin. Now, the gallbladder, of course, once again, as you know, does not make bile. It only stores it. The liver makes the bile, right? So it's a thin-walled green muscular sac on the ventral surface of the liver. And you all know what ventral means. And it stores and concentrates bile by absorbing water and ions. So it's moving the solution that is produced by the liver into the gallbladder. And once that more watery solution goes in from the liver, the gallbladder removes water from it. So that concentrates the bile, right? So what the liver is making is watery. The bile stores it, concentrates it by taking the water out, at least a lot of it. And remember, the gallbladder releases bile by the cystic duct, which merges with the hepatic duct, which merges with the pancreatic duct, forming ampulla, right? Now, how do you regulate the release of bile? Remember, bile is specialized. Bile is for emulsifying fat and reabsorption of cholesterol and things like that, right? So you don't want to release bile if somebody's had a slice of cake, right? You don't want to release bile if somebody's had a hamburger. Well, maybe the hamburger was normally fat in hamburgers, but a piece of lean chicken breast or something like that, right? So generally speaking, when the chyme comes in from the stomach, enters the duodenum, you have receptors that pick up the fat content. So if the chyme is high in fatty acids, you get the duodenum picking it up and causing the release of cholecystokinin and secreting into the blood. Okay? And the reason it has to go into the blood, of course, is because they have to travel to the liver. There's no direct blood connection between that part of the small intestine and the liver. So you secrete into the blood, CCK secreting, then make its way to the liver. And it says bile salts and secretin transported in the blood stimulate the liver to produce bile. Then it also mentions vagal stimulation causes weak contractions of the gallbladder. So the liver, once it gets the secreted message, starts to make extra bile, right? If there are bile salts in the blood as well, you get extra bile. And as the liver is making the extra bile, you're squeezing out the bile in the gallbladder into your small intestine. And that, of course, makes space to put the additional bile. So you eat the food, you use the bile, you replace the bile same time, right? Now, of course, if you think about it, this is also the reason why people can vomit and bile comes up. Because remember I said to you earlier that your duodenum can force chyme back into the pylorus of the stomach, right? So you can imagine somebody and their stomach is empty, but they feel nauseous. They secrete bile into the duodenum. That bile gets transported into the stomach. Then they vomit. And that bile, of course, comes up and out. So they're literally vomiting bile, right? So as it mentions here, the cholecystokinin causes the gallbladder to contract, the hepatopancreatic sphincter to relax. As a result, bile enters the duodenum, right? So the bile can move, as I just said, into the duodenum. Now, this here now is, of course, simply showing it step by step. So one, the acidic chyme comes into the duodenum, causing the release of cholecystokinin, right? And secreting from the duodenal wall, and which of course comes from enteroendocrine cells here, right? They enter the bloodstream, then go to the liver, and says bile salts and secretin transported via bloodstream stimulate the liver to produce bile more rapidly. So the liver starts making bile like crazy. At the same time, the vagal nerve stimulates contractions of the gallbladder. So the gallbladder starts squeezing the bile out. So as the liver is making bile, you're squeezing out the bile that you have stored already. This, of course, empties it into your small intestine, makes space to put more bile. Cholecystokinin, which is in the bloodstream, causes the gallbladder to contract and the hepatopancreatic sphincter to relax. Bile therefore enters the duodenum, right? So once the cholecystokinin hits, strong contractions now force out large volumes of bile, and as the bile travels down the hepatopancreatic to the hepatopancreatic sphincter opens, bile enters now your duodenum, right? Now, before I move on to looking at some conditions associated with the digestive system, let me recap something or point something out. In the PowerPoint presentation I sent you, there is a lot of information about enzymes, or some information, I should say, about enzymes. There's a table there about enzymes and hormones. in particular that I want you to go through. I asked you to do it last time in preparation for your quiz, but it is also information that can come up on your in-course test, right? So the information that I sent you about your digestive enzymes, and it also will summarize the hormones we spoke about here today, you already should have it, okay? All right, that said, let's talk about some of the diseases associated with your digestive system. So we'll start with esophageal cancer. So as it says here, it normally occurs in the mucosal lining of the organ. It is very serious and is usually detected late because it is not a super common disorder. What you end up with is difficulty swallowing, which is dysphagia, and weight loss because of that, and vomiting blood. I mean, let's be honest, is there any good reason to be vomiting blood? I can't think of any. That said, it is often associated with GERD, which of course is acid reflux disease. So the idea here is that as your stomach acid is eating away at the lining of your esophagus, constantly damaging the cells, forcing them to repair, damaging and repair over and over and over again, with all of that cell division going on, sometimes you get cells becoming cancerous, right? And this, of course, can lead to esophageal cancer. So if you're somebody with constant heartburn issues, there is a risk of esophageal cancer. Now, you also have esophageal stricture, which is the narrowing of the esophagus. Obviously, this gives you dysphagia, difficulty swallowing, right? It mentions that 10 to 20% of GERD patients can also get esophageal strictures. So basically, you can see here, the area has been damaged. And as the cells try to repair themselves because of the damage done by the GERD, the area thickens. It's almost like a callus on your foot bottom, right? You rub, your body makes the callus to reduce the effect of rubbing. And this, of course, causes the narrowing of your esophagus. And obviously, this is pretty dangerous, right? It's going to reduce your ability to swallow. And of course, weight loss, the usual thing will occur, right? Then now we have dyspepsia. That is now heartburn, which can lead to acid reflux disease. Remember, acid reflux disease is not just heartburn today. It is very regular, several times a week. This is happening to you, right? For an extended period of time. Now, sometimes when you change your diet, you will find yourself getting heartburn more often, right? Because your body isn't used to your new diet. So let's say you go from being a normal eater and decide to become a pescatarian or a vegetarian or something like that. You might end up with heartburn, right? Now, that heartburn I'm describing is temporary. After a few days to weeks, it will go away as you get used to the new diet, right? It also mentions esophageal ulcers. And of course, an ulcer is damaged tissue and it's associated also with inflammation. So as the esophagus gets damaged, as you can see, there's ulceration here, it's going to swell, which of course, once again, narrows the esophagus. And 10 to 20% of acid reflux people have this problem as well. Now you can see how common major issues are when you start with acid reflux. Once again, dysphagia, trouble swallowing, right? And the treatment here, as I mentioned, is protein pump inhibitors and proton blockers. So this is reducing. Question?
Yeah, why do they get hungry fast, or why are they encouraged to eat frequently when they have these stomach ulcers?
To eat frequently?
Yes, sir.
But in small quantities, right?
Right.
Yes, okay. They're encouraged to eat frequently, but in small quantities. The small quantities is important. One, the quantities are small, and you're reducing the damage being done as the food is passing down, right? Think of it as giving recovery time in between. Two, if the stomach never gets very full, then there's never a massive production of hydrochloric acid in the stomach. And if there's not an overproduction of HCl, it's less likely for them to get the acid reflux because there won't be enough chyme to come up and out so easily. So by you're basically producing less chyme, therefore less acid chyme can be squirted into your esophagus. If you eat one or two large meals, on the other hand, large volumes in the stomach, more chyme, therefore to get squeezed up and out into your esophagus. So it makes sense. You don't want to reduce the nutrition, so you have to eat the same amount per day, but you want to reduce stomach volume, so you eat 6, 7, 8 times per day instead, but small amounts.
And sir,
Or would it be that, as you had mentioned earlier, that the carbs stay shorter, they would have needed to have more protein in their diet so it can stay longer in the system or hold them more for hours?
Well, I'm
carbs?
assuming that they'll be eating a normal balanced diet, which means proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. It's just that they're eating smaller quantities of each. Now, if they have like severe acid reflux, they might be asked to stay away from high protein food. Because of course the protein is going to trigger the production of the stomach acid. So if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, as you mentioned, and even fats too. So, oil, like bread and butter, those kind of things, then they should have less acid reflux as well. But obviously this is not sustainable over a long period of time because your body needs the protein. There was another question. I think there was.
sir, and they usually say to stay away from spicy food. And
Because spicy food can irritate your esophagus.
yeah, and when you eat, you should sit up. You shouldn't lay down.
Because if your cardiac sphincter is weakened, maybe a lot of times the GERD is being caused because your cardiac sphincter is a bit weak, so it doesn't close all the way. So you can imagine a bottle that you knock over a bottle, the contents spill out, right? So if you lie down, if there's a little hole in the sphincter, then some of the chyme can leak into your esophagus. So all of that makes perfect sense to me, right?
So, sir, the less chyme, the better then? That's what you're saying, hence it's more
If
frequent.
you are suffering from heart disease, heartburn, right? I mean, obviously, if you're not suffering from heartburn, it don't really matter, right? How often have we eaten big meals and lay down? Remember niggeritis? As the niggeritis sets in, and you lay down, you unbuckle your pants and you lay down and go sleep, right? If you have acid reflux, you can't do that because you are going to get heartburn. All right. Then we have esophageal atresia. Now, this is it happens in babies. Basically, the baby is born and the esophagus and the stomach are connected, but there's a layer of tissue between them. So the esophagus ends as a blind pouch. So you're trying to feed the baby and the baby is just constantly vomiting up everything. Right? And you wonder what the heck is going on. Occurs in about 1 in every 5,000 births. The only way you can fix this is surgery. Right? Then we have peptic ulcers. Now, peptic ulcers, peptic as in peptide, right? Caused by Helicobacter pylori. This is your common ulcer. Okay? Normally, when people say they have a stomach ulcer, this is the one that they're talking about. Ulcers are not caused by stress, right? They're not caused by what you eat. They're caused by bacteria. Obviously, stress and what you eat can exacerbate the ulcer, but it can't cause the ulcer. So if somebody has an ulcer, it is treated these days with what? Antibiotics, which makes perfect sense. Helicobacter pylori, right? And people, we always tell the story about the guy who discovered this. The guy who discovered this published a paper about this bacteria causing ulcers. And when he published the paper, everybody laughed at him and said, foolish him attack. So my guy decided to prove his point. And he drank a solution containing the Helicobacter pylori. Right? He showed, hey, I don't have an ulcer now. Drank the stuff. And within no time, he had an ulcer. So they had to say, okay, maybe there was something going on with it. So that guy proved his point by giving himself the condition, right? So yes, if you have an ulcer, it's not stress. It's H. pylori, right? Obviously, it wasn't the smartest thing in the world to do, but it worked, right? Okay. They also mentioned that 20 to 50% infection increases with age. So the older you are, the more likely you are to get H. pylori. One of the problems is that as you get older, the stomach acid strength starts to diminish. So it's easier for bacteria that are marginal, as in they can just about survive in a weaker acid. They're now going to be more likely to set up shop in your stomach. Bad eating patterns cannot cause an ulcer. But once again, as I said, it can exacerbate the ulcer, right? Because if your stomach, all right, let me explain what I mean. Generally speaking, you can get your body used to rhythms. So eating rhythms, like, most of us like 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, that kind of thing. Your body gets used to that rhythm. And when you start to abruptly change the rhythm, it takes a while for your body to adjust. So if normally at 12 o'clock, you're supposed to be eating your lunch, and you decide to skip lunch, your stomach is actually still producing acid. But there's nothing in the stomach now to soak up the acid, right? The stomach is expecting food to show up. Make it worse if you're skipping lunch while people around you are not. So you're getting a cephalic phase going on. So the intestinal, so the gastric phase assumes food is coming, starts to make the acid. If you have an ulcer, right, the acid, of course, is going to start eating away at the ulcer, since there won't be any food in the stomach to help to absorb that acid. So from that perspective, a bad eating pattern can exacerbate an ulcer, can make things worse, but it's not going to cause it, okay? No, non-steroidal pain control can also impact your ulcers, right? So you can't be on a lot of painkillers while you have an ulcer, because that can make it worse. Smoking.
So what would be the treatment to reduce the pain if they can't take as simple as Panadol?
I'm told that even if you can't take Panadol, you can still take you can take paracetamol, but you can take ibuprofen.
But
So
sir,
that's still
ibuprofen is a strong opioid and it can irritate the stomach as well.
ibuprofen is not a strong opioid. Ibuprofen is not an opioid at all. To the best of my knowledge, ibuprofen doesn't impact opioid receptors. I could be wrong still, I don't remember. But I don't remember it being an opioid. It's not considered an opioid as far as I know. But once again, I haven't checked it in a while, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. Now, smoking. Sometimes when you breathe in the smoke, some of that smoke actually ends up in your intestines, and the tobacco, can irritate the lining of your intestines. And not minor, but it's a minor issue. Alcohol, on the other hand, alcohol can significantly exacerbate an ulcer. Because remember, well, the bacteria is irritating your epithelial lining, which reduces the production of mucus. this lessened mucus, of course, makes it easier for the acid to eat away at the epithelium. If the alcohol is dissolving the mucus on top of that, it's even easier for the stomach acid to eat away at your stomach lining. So if you have an ulcer, you need to cut off alcohol, right? Stress, once again, can cause it. But of course, in all things, stress might not cause the condition, but it can make things worse, right? And by worse, I don't necessarily mean physically worse, but mentally worse. You can have the same condition, but because it's always on your mind, you're constantly thinking about it. It impacts you more than it should, right? That's what I mean. Pancreatitis. This is another one that is linked with alcohol, right? So pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas. Obviously, itis, inflammation. Gallstones, you mentioned earlier, that the gallstones block the hepatopancreatic duct. All of a sudden, you can't release your pancreatic juice, which contains the digestive enzymes, into your intestines. You have a problem, right? You have a backup of these substances in the pancreas, stretching the pancreas, damaging tissue, get pancreatitis, right? Smoking, once again, is linked to pancreatitis, right? And once again, when we say smoking, we don't just mean cigarettes. Okay. And of course, pancreatic cancer can also cause pancreatitis, right? But look at this one. High calcium or triglycerides in the blood. Now, obviously, this is over a very long period of time, right? Now, what are some of the symptoms of pancreatitis? We have acute pancreatitis, which is going to cause nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain, which is similar in a lot of ways to what you get with appendicitis. But remember, in the pancreas is up near the stomach, while the appendix is lower down on the large intestine, right? So the position of the pain will help you to diagnose whether it's pancreatitis potentially or appendicitis, right? Then you have chronic pancreatitis. You're not necessarily going to get a lot of the obvious pain, but you get a lot of indigestion, right? You get lower level abdominal pain. If your pancreas isn't producing the digestive enzymes it should, you start to lose weight because you're not able to break down the food and absorb the nutrients from it. And of course, lipase is produced by the pancreas. So your stool is going to be very oily, very sticky, right? Nothing you'd want to actually see. I do feel like I should put a picture in here though, but I won't. All right. Then how about this one? Statistically speaking, at least a couple of you in here are going to suffer from lactose intolerance, right? Basically, lactose intolerance, meat, cheese, dairy products are going to cause a problem. Anything that contains the enzyme lactose, anything that contains the sugar lactose, is going to affect you. When you're a baby, of course, you spend your life drinking milk. But when you're a baby, you also produce large quantities of this enzyme called lactase. Lactase helps to break down this milk, right? Now, as you get older, you produce less and less lactase because you're now eating other foods. If you live in a society where their cuisine is not heavily based on milk products, your ability to produce lactase drops dramatically when you reach adulthood. So when you decide, you know what, I haven't eaten cheese in like 5 years, let's have a piece of cheese. the lactose sugar in that cheese now, it passes into your stomach, nothing happens to it. Passes into your small intestine, hardly anything happens to it because it's very little lactase. It then passes down into your large intestine, where you have plenty of bacteria down there that can work on it. And the bacteria break down the lactase, but the enzymes they use produce large quantities of gas, including hydrogen sulfide gas. So you end up with abdominal pain, right? And when you pass gas, birds fall from the sky, that kind of thing, right? That's lactose intolerance. If you ever had a dog that got into a lot of cheese, this also happens to the dog, which is why you're not supposed to feed cheese to dog, because they don't have a lot of lactase enzyme either, right? Now, that said, if you happen to live in a culture that eats lots of dairy products, what we find happening is that in general, you produce lactase in still smaller quantities, but significant quantities right up into adulthood and beyond, right? So, for example, people of European descent, Germans and French, spend a lot of time with dairy. So they tend to keep lactase. Also, lots of African tribes that live with their herds, same issue. So they're fine. But like, for example, the Asians, Japanese, for example, 85% and 90% of Japanese are lactose intolerant because they don't eat a lot of cheese. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, the average Japanese person doesn't even like the taste of cheese. They don't drink milk, none of those things. So when they consume something high in milk or cheese, it affects them very badly, right? In Jamaica, we're kind of half and half. Because I think most people, regularly have some tasty cheese or something, right? Strange enough, I don't think we're really that big on milk, like straight milk. I mean, when last one of you have had like a glass of milk and just drink it? Weirdly enough, it's not something I see Jamaicans do very often.
Sir,
I
me do
do
that with
too, man.
almond milk, even though that
Of
probably
course,
not really
milk
good.
with thirst.
Yeah, do that, sir, but nothing happen after it.
If you're drinking large glass of milk and nothing's happening to you, it means that you're not lactose intolerant, right? Which means, of course, that chance that you've had a lot of dairy throughout your life. But if you notice, it's 2 or 3 people talk. So it's like what, 10% of the class, right? So 10% is still a low number, but guess what? If you decide to stop consuming so much milk for a couple of years and go back to it, most of you will become lactose intolerant. So if you like your milk and you like your cheese, boy, you can't stop eating it. Or you will lose the ability to digest it properly, right? Because nature has decided that adults should not be drinking milk. It's kind of ridiculous. So keep that in mind, right? Now, as it mentions here, it also may be triggered by intestinal parasites like Giardia or the rotavirus as well. But as I mentioned to you, bacteria break down in lactose, releasing methane and hydrogen, causing gas, hydrogen sulfide too. And it is detectable by means of a breath test. All this here. So if you're lactose intolerant, even as you're speaking, you can smell the gases on the people's breath and gives them bad breath, right? If you get bad breath after drinking some milk, you know you're lactose intolerant, right? Now, Crohn's disease. This is an interesting one. And more people are getting Crohn's disease. This thing used to be very, very rare, right? Because this is an autoimmune disease causing inflammation of various parts of your digestive tract, right? As I said, it's most common in the ileum and the colon, but may affect other parts of the GI tract as well, right? So inflammation type irritable bowel disease, if you've ever heard of that, same kind of thing. Once again, smoking increases the likelihood of getting this. Look at this one here. There's no known drug or cure. Quite frankly, there's not even any known proper treatment of Crohn's disease. People have been known to have as many as 20 bowel movements per day. Can you imagine? You can't leave your house. 20 a day. That means every 40 half an hour, 45 minutes, you find a bathroom. Now, notice here where it says no known cure. In the last couple of years, they have discovered a treatment for Crohn's disease. Remember I said to you, more and more people seem to be developing Crohn's disease. Here is, see if this makes sense here. One of the leading theories now is that Crohn's disease is caused by, and this is going to sound weird to you, being too clean as a child. I just said you get a disease by not being a nasty little bugger when you're young. How does that make any sense? When we used to live in a more natural environment, you would take a child, put them outside and say, go play. You're getting on my nerves. Go do something else. They'd go outside, they'd run around, they'd stick various bits of plant material in their mouth. I mean, everybody when they're young would do this. You'd pull up the grass stalk and stick it in their mouth and chew on it. They'd eat dirt. They'd pick random fruits with them dirty hand and eat it. They'd throw poop at each other. They do all sorts of things, roll around. What they were doing at that age, believe it or not, and the same holds for allergies, that they were exposing themselves to allergens. They were training their body, right? But most of this training occurs when you're young. So there's a window to it. So the more potential antigens and allergens you expose yourself to when you are young, the more your immune system can tell friend from foe. This is the important part here now. Because once your immune system can say, okay, this is a peanut, it's not gonna do me nothing. You know? So that is important. Hence, you will not develop a peanut allergy. Okay? If you're living in a more urban or cityscape, you can't do that. Right? What you gonna do? Send the people them down to the down so they can roll up and down in the car grease and play with the abandoned tire them? No. So what you find happening is that your immune system is not exposed to the range of allergens. So what you find happening is that people who live in their entire lives in cities are more likely to have Crohn's disease. They're also more likely to get allergies, right? So the more people live in cities, the more these diseases proliferate. If you did go, so I, for example, grew up mostly in St. Elizabeth. I don't have any of these problems, right? But 1 in 4 of your generation have these problems. 1 in 4. That's crazy, right? Now, in terms of a treatment, here is currently the best treatment for Crohn's disease. Remember, it says here that there's no treatment. And as it says, it is constant inflammation, irritation of the bowels. It is a debilitating disease. You can't leave your house, right? Here is how they treated it. They found a healthy person and they took feces from a healthy person and they inserted the feces into the intestines of people who are suffering from Crohn's disease. So they put somebody's poop into somebody else's butt, essentially. And they did this multiple times over the period of a few months. And guess what? Most of the symptoms of Crohn's disease disappeared within 3 months and did not come back. They didn't get treated. 95% of them got some level of cure. And they're like, how the heck is this possible? How can somebody else's poop be a treatment? Simple. Within the intestines of these healthy people, you have the healthy intestinal flora and fauna. You have bacteria that should be in a normal person's body, right? But one thing that's also associated with Crohn's disease is antibiotics. So when you're consuming plenty of food with antibiotics in there, or you yourself are living on antibiotics every 5 minutes, you kill the bad bacteria, the good bacteria kill everything. The thing with good bacteria is that your immune system is used to having it around. When you remove them from your immune system can go out of control. Right? Hence, you get an autoimmune condition. So by putting back in the good bacteria, your immune system resets itself to what it should be at. So the inflammation goes away. The need to poop every 5 minutes goes away. Right? Why are you not hearing about this? It's very simple. Technically speaking, you don't need a pharmaceutical company for this. It is not a pharmaceutical drug. You could literally go to one of your relatives if you're so bold and get a practical nurse to shove a tube up your butt and just do the thing. Right? Yes, it's all nasty, but Crohn's disease is far nastier than that. So this is my
So you
opinion.
said the healthy poop.
As I said, it has to be from
So you
a
said they put the healthy
healthy person. It has to be from a healthy person. So they screen, you have to, all right. They did a study in the UK and they screen people. And if I remember correctly, they were paying the donors, they call them donors, 60 pounds per poop. That's not bad. Right? I mean, what if I told you somebody would pay you the equivalent of what's that? About 10 grand. 10 grand a day for your poop. Most of you could see the job and sit down. You know?
Yes, sir.
See what I mean? That's like 300 grand a month to poop. Well, that's assuming you're gonna do it every day, right? But once again, it was a small set of people. They went through all kind of medical checks to make sure they were healthy. And from what I understand, they said one poop can treat 5 people. So I mean, you know, but there's not a lot of money in it for pharmacists, for big companies. So you're not hearing very much about it, right? Anyway, appendicitis. This kills a lot of people. All right. Basically, your appendix, remember, is an organ of the lymphatic system. It is filled with lymph nodes. But because of its position here, this is the cecum here, right? This is the ileum. So right between the ileum and the cecum, you have the ileocecal valve here. So what is happening here now is feces from the ileum move through the valve into the cecum. Okay. Then they're supposed to go up the cecum and continue. But sometimes the feces gets pushed down into the appendix. And it contains bacteria. And this bacteria can start to proliferate within the little passage in the appendix. The appendix, of course, in herbivores, is a large tubular organ where you ferment plant material to break it down. Human beings have basically a vestigial appendix. Our distant ancestors used to eat a lot of vegetation, but of course we don't. Think about it. What do we normally do with vegetation? Either we're eating the fruits or the storage organs, which don't need a lot of processing by us. And even if we're eating leaves, think about the leafy veg that you eat. You cook most of it. And the ones that you don't, like cabbage, cabbage and raw carrot and these kind of things, that's like a side dish, right? So you don't really need an appendix as a human. I wonder where that only, well, I mean, you have to, okay, first of all, do you all remember I said to you a long time ago, or maybe it was you, that in general, males have a weaker immune system than females? So when it comes to infections like this, males have a slightly lower ability to fight them off than females. Because apparently it seems that testosterone inhibits immune response. So too much of it can shorten a man's life. Anyway, that's one possibility, right? Obviously, there's only one. So anyway, the bacteria, of course, proliferate in the appendix and release gases in the appendix, right? And that causes the appendix to start swelling like a balloon because the gases can get trapped in there by the impacted poop. And as it swells up like a balloon, of course, it is going to cause inflammation in the cecum and the appendix, which causes pain and tenderness in the lower abdomen. It's also going to cause nausea because every time you eat and the feces are pushed past the area that, of course, is inflamed, it's going to cause pain, and that pain results in nausea. So pain, nausea, tenderness of the abdomen, you might have appendicitis. Now, if it's left untreated, the appendix itself will eventually burst because the gas is building up, stretching that appendix, just pops like a balloon. When this happens, the infected feces get flung all about your abdominal cavity. So you can imagine infected feces landing on your liver and your kidneys and other parts of your digestive tract, and then the bacteria start working on them. Before you know it, you have a wide-scale bacterial infection spread throughout your abdominal cavity, which can, of course, lead to your death, right? So yeah, appendicitis is not nice. Now, these days, of course, well, what used to happen in the past is that somebody with appendicitis, you'd come in, they'd cut off the appendix, sew up the end of the cecum and send you home. But now that we know the appendix is a part of your lymphatic system, which is a part of your immune system, you're not supposed to do that anymore. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to cut it open, clean it out, put antibiotics in there, sew them back up, and give the patients antibiotics for a couple of weeks so that it will heal up nicely, right? So they're not supposed to be removing the appendix anymore. No more appendectomies anymore. But of course, it still gets done, right? Mostly because for a surgeon, it's so easy to go in, chop off that, and go home, right? The other procedure I described is a lot more complex, right? All right. Then we have diverticulitis and diverticulosis. So diverticulosis is pouches formed in the wall of the sigmoid colon normally. And here you go. Once again, as you get older, that increases the risk. So basically, you get these out pockets forming, right? And of course, they can get impacted with feces again, right? Feces pack up on the inside of these little pouches and can eventually cause a rupture. And once again, feces gets into your abdominal cavity. In diverticulitis, on the other hand, the pouches, become inflamed and they start to hurt, right? So they haven't popped yet. So diverticulosis, the pouches, can lead to diverticulitis. In either way, you have to go in, this is surgery again, cut off the pouches, and then sew your colon shut. Okay? So that's also surgery. Irritable bowel syndrome is lots of different things, right? Basically, you're looking at cramping, abdominal pain, constipation, and diarrhea. So today, you have constipation. Tomorrow, the brown river flows. You can never tell, right? Mentions up to 20% of our population have these symptoms. Once again, irritable bowel syndrome is something that is mostly associated with city dwellers. Lots of diseases associated with the immune system affect people in the city more and they affect people who live out of city. Once again, if you spend your childhood out in the country, you tend to be healthier when you come to the city, believe it or not, right? But irritable bowel syndrome is one of these problems where, once again, we're not really sure exactly what causes it, right? Not 100% sure how to treat it either. But it doesn't have to be as bad as Crohn's disease, right? Now, waterborne infections. Mentions, this is US, 76 million cases per year, 325,000 hospitalizations, 5,000 deaths, right? Now, here are some bacteria that you can consume that can cause problems. Salmonella, which is very common on fish, along with listeria, right? Toxoplasma is a not a bacteria, is a parasitic worm, and they cause 1,500 deaths per year, right? Then in water, still viruses. You have Norwalk's virus, rotavirus, and hepatitis A, all of which you can get from drinking contaminated water, right? Now, I want you to think about this and think about what's going on in Haiti. Haiti doesn't exist anymore, right? Haiti is just a collection of gang territories right now. From what I understand, that they've taken control over the municipal water supply, so there's no access to easy, clean water in Haiti anymore. Can you imagine how things are going to be in a month from now? Can you imagine diseases that are going to be running through Haiti a month from now? Right? So look, as bad as Jamaica can be, and I'm not making an excuse for Jamaica, but thank God he never born in Haiti. Right? It could be a lot worse. Also, we have parasites like Cryptosporidium, Giardia, and Toxoplasma. I mentioned Toxoplasma already, right? All of which are waterborne, right? There's a reason why we treat our water. There's so many things living in the water that will happily take up shop in your lower intestines, right? Now, if I say to you the dirtiest part of the bathroom, I'm sure at least one person knows this. Where's the dirtiest part of a bathroom? Who knows? The nastiest part in the bathroom is where? It is not the
Sink.
toilet.
The sink, sir?
It's not the
Sir, I
sink.
think
It's the door handle. Right, Shamar? It's the door handle. Public bathrooms in particular. Think about it. When you go into a public bathroom, you think everybody will go in and wash their hands when they leave? You really think so? They did a survey in the US, and this is the US, you know. So 1 in 10 people in the survey admitted that they did not wash their hands after defecating when they leave the public bathroom. These are the people who admitted to it.
so what people nasty, sir.
That's
So
my
we know
point.
that.
So, but so it must be higher than that. So that means that you have people who go in there, poop, wipe their bottoms, and half of the time you wipe your bottom with the toilet paper in these bathrooms, flimsy. Your finger push right through it, and you're rubbing the brown. Then what you do? You wipe off your finger, so-called, drop it in the toilet, and you walk out, you grab the door handle, on the way out, you have now smeared feces on that door handle. Right? Somebody else comes along, wash their hands so nicely, think that they're perfectly fine, and grab the same door handle you just left. And then they eat in their lunch, eating on patty, and leave doodle fingerprints all over the food and don't even know.
Sir, that's why I always use a paper towel to open the door.
I use my elbow. I don't touch it.
Use
Right?
a paper. So your elbow, that
Yeah,
can
man.
work too, if there is no paper towel.
I use my elbow point and push the door open. Because I do not trust the door handles. It is by far the nastiest place in the bathroom. And weird enough, the toilet is the cleanest. You'd never believe it. Because I think people are more aware of the toilet seat. But yeah, all of this to say, please, when you use these places, wash your hands. Right? Wash your hands. Even during COVID, the best the best way to prevent you from getting COVID was just washing your hands regularly. Right? Can't stress washing hands enough. And if you buy food from people and you can't see what they're doing with the food or how the food gets put together, because sometimes you go to a cook shop or something, you buy some food, you have no idea what's going on at the back of the shop. Try know, right? Anyway. Now, constipation is excessively hard and infrequent stool. Okay, how often is normal per week to have a bowel movement? In 7 days, how many bowel movements should you have? Who knows? What's the norm? Nobody knows? That's a 17. Shamari need a check. If you're
Sir,
using
at least 7 or 14.
17 a week, Shamari you need a check. You're supposed to have one bowel movement every day or every other day. So between 7 and 3. Right? Now, obviously, a lot of this is also impacted by
Sir,
your...
could you repeat that part, please?
Come again. It's supposed to be once per day or once every other day.
Could you... Really, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, not for me. Not for me, sir.
If you're doing less
Sir,
than 3 hours...
sir, sometimes 2 times for the week.
How much? I didn't catch that.
2 times, sir.
That means you're
2
constipated.
times, sir. And sometimes we get
Constipation.
so we have to
That is
we have to write it down on the
constipation.
calendar just to ensure.
Oh my God. No, that is severe
But sir,
constipation.
I'm not.
Listen, as you get older, the impact of constipation gets worse. Because one of the problems with constipation is that a lot of the weight, it's not just waste, but remember that your body also dumps toxic chemicals into the feces, assuming that you'll pass it out. And the longer it stays in, the more likely these wastes start to leach back into your blood. Right? So constant constipation can actually add stress to your organs because of toxins. Okay? If you're finding yourself passing feces less than 3 times a week, chances are your diet is severely lacking in fiber and you're not drinking enough water, right? If your diet is comprised mainly of things from tasty or from the bakery down the road or bread, chances are you're going to have constipation, right? You're supposed to consume a fairly large quantity of green vegetables. Callaloo, these kind of things, high in fiber, they help to hold water in the digestive, in the large intestine, so the feces don't dry out. All right? Because if the feces are hard enough, they can actually damage the rectum as you're trying to pass it out. You find yourself pooping blood because the feces are too hard. It's not good for you, right?
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, how about twice per day?
Twice per day is much. No man, not too much. That if you're doing that regularly, it might mean that your bowels are being irritated by something you're eating. You might actually have an allergy to something that you're consuming.
What about 5 times?
No, 5 times you need to go to the hospital. There's no way a
Sir,
normal
when
person
I
should...
go 5 times, sir. So I know I can talk about 5 times.
I'm assuming it means per week.
No, sir, for the day.
No, man, that's not possible. Unless you went to a cook shop the morning before. I mean, how often you ever buy food
Probably,
on the
sir,
road?
can love that cook shop.
There you go.
No, it's not mean as I was just asking in general.
Yeah, man, I know, you're asking for a friend. Fair enough. Even exercising actually helps the constriction of muscles around the abdominal cavity, which actually helps to push the stool along, right? So all of these can combine to give you very infrequent bowel movements, right? Diarrhea, of course, In some ways, it is the opposite of constipation. Diarrhea is normally your body's way of trying to flush out antigens, which normally are associated with bacteria, out of the digestive system, right? Remember that you have lymphocytes floating around inside of your intestines that can release cytokines that can help to trigger a cascade that can cause your intestines to start dumping intestinal fluid into the intestines to basically flush out your intestines, right? So diarrhea is a sign that your immune system thinks something you took in was bad. So when you go to anti-cook shop, and then a couple hours later, you go in the bathroom, maybe auntie never wash your hand. All right, that's all I'm saying. Right? Now, it says here.
Which one is worse, sir?
What?
Diarrhea, constipation.
Constipation. Because at least in diarrhea, your body's trying to clear the toxic chemicals. In constipation, they're just sitting there, waiting to be reabsorbed into your body. Obviously, diarrhea is going to be very uncomfortable, and you won't appreciate the diarrhea, but normally diarrhea lasts a day or two, and you're going back to normal. Whereas you're sitting there constipated for weeks, for days and weeks, and your body's absorbing toxins. And you tell me which is better then, right? Now, how do you treat diarrhea? Believe it or not, bread, banana, rice. We don't really do applesauce in Jamaica, and toast. Why? Because these things are high in starch. Starch tends to hold the feces together more easily, right? So it's almost like you're throwing cement in water, right? Now, diarrhea can kill you. Cholera. I'm sure everybody knows cholera, right? Which is another disease that is in Haiti right now. It's going to start spreading like wildfire in months to come, I have no doubt. What the hell is Pepsi and salt supposed to do? I don't understand the purpose of that. That makes no sense to me. Do you know that what's it called? Caffeine irritates the lining of your digestive tract and can cause diarrhea. Which is one of the reasons when people drink a lot of coffee, they tend to run to the bathroom. Right? Now, dehydration, cholera gets into your intestine and it causes the severest diarrhea you can imagine. Right? It's constant. It's like a pipe turn on and pure brown water come out of it. Right? Now, this will kill you because of the dehydration. People have been known to die of cholera within 48 hours of symptoms showing because of how severe the diarrhea has been. Okay? So, diarrhea can kill you for sure if uncontrolled, right? Now, as I said, my mind keeps drifting back to poor Haiti. Boy, anyway, we're going to be seeing a lot of boats coming to Jamaica in the near future. I can tell you that much. Anyway, folks, let's stop there. Now, let's start now about, again, as I said to you earlier, about your in-course lab quiz. Sorry. We have a lab quiz on electrolytes to do. I want to do it on Sunday at 7 p.m. Any objections?
Sir, well, we can't do it tomorrow, sir.
There's no school tomorrow. There's no labs tomorrow.
For who, sir?
Anybody, because of Thursday and Friday.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah, remember it's a public holiday this week, so.
And do we have and should so would next week also be a lab quiz week?
What do you mean?
Would we have gotten a next lab quiz next week, sir?
No, what I was planning on, well, actually, all right, there's two things we can do. Because I was planning on giving a lab quiz break. We can either do the break this week and in the lab
Yes,
quiz
sir.
next week, or we can do the lab, or we can do the break
Yes, sir.
next week.
Quiz next week, sir. This week is the break.
Well, I mean, what do the rest of you think? What do you prefer? You want to leave the lab quiz till next Wednesday?
Sir, how many we have remaining?
All right, you have skin to do. I think we did urinary already. And there is reproduction. I think that's basically it. So electrolyte, skin, reproduction.
Sir, what about endocrine?
We don't normally give an endocrine quiz. This is mainly a worksheet.
So you said there's just 2 lab quizzes are left?
Aside from the electrolytes,
Which are the 2, sir?
skin, reproduction.
Yes, sir.
So what do you want? You want to take the break and then do it next week, Wednesday?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have your rep send me a message now, please, because you're 1 or 2 people respond. Everybody is very quiet.
The rep is responding, sir. We have
Yeah, I thought
chosen
there was
you.
like 2 reps. I'm confused.
I'm one of them, sir. So
Yeah, man. So once
this week on the quiz, man.
start out in the business and let me know, right?
So, sir, this week, as in Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
But as I say, if you all decide on a different time, just let me know. Because remember, it doesn't really bother me, right? Or we can leave it until next week, Wednesday. Either way.
So, sir, if we leave it on next week Wednesday, we'll make it in 2 lab quiz instead of 1.
No, I would have just done the electrolytes then, and then the following week I do the skin.
Sir, so we're not going to get a lab quiz on the digestive system?
Oh crap! I thought we did that one already. All right, new plan. We're going to have to do digestive system, but we need to do electrolytes first. So I'm going to combine electrolytes and skin into one quiz. So next week. Because as I just said, because we're not having lab tomorrow because of the university is not doing labs for tomorrow because of the holiday. So I mean, if you want to do it tomorrow in the evening, I mean, I guess we could do that. So you want me to? Yeah, you want me to do that? The lab tomorrow
at 3
evening.
o'clock.
Come again?
Tomorrow at 3
Yes.
o'clock.
Can we do that? Well, we'd have to do it for everybody one time though.
Or in the night.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you just sort it out, let me know what time, and then.
Tomorrow at 7.
All right, so send me a message once you've all decided, and then I can work with that. I don't have a problem with tomorrow at 7, right? And then we can do electrolytes, and then we try to sort out digestion next week. Okay? But let me know by the morning so I can set it, okay? All right, folks.
Okay.
Discuss it amongst yourselves. Let me know what's going on tomorrow. I will check my email around 10 o'clock or so and see. All right, folks. So we will speak again. All right, and I'm supposed to come. So your in-course test is week after next. Right? Don't forget. Week after next.